The salty breeze whipped through the air as Emily, Jake, Sarah, and Tom trudged along the deserted beach, their laughter mingling with the rhythmic sound of waves crashing against the shore. They had ventured far from the crowded boardwalks, seeking a spot where they could be free from the clamor of tourists. What they found was an abandoned stretch of sand, untouched by time and whispers of the past. As the sun dipped lower on the horizon, casting golden hues across the sky, Sarah spotted something jutting out from the landscape, a dilapidated lighthouse, its once bright paint now peeling and faded, a mere ghost of its former self. Curiosity piqued. She waved her friends over, excitement dancing in her eyes. "Look at that! We have to check it out!" she exclaimed, pointing toward the looming structure. The lighthouse stood tall, a solitary sentinel against the backdrop of the vast ocean, but it was clear it had been forgotten by the world. Tom, the most adventurous of the group, grinned. "You think it's haunted," he teased, but there was an underlying thrill in his voice. Emily rolled her eyes, though her heart raced with the thought. "Come on, guys, let's not get carried away. It's just an old lighthouse." But even as she said it, she felt the magnetic pull of the structure, as if it were beckoning them closer. As they approached, the salty scent of the sea mingled with a damp, earthy odor that emanated from the building. The lighthouse loomed over them, its glass lantern cracked and cloudy, giving it an eerie, mournful appearance. The door creaked ominously as they pushed it open, revealing a darkened interior filled with the smell of mildew and decay. "After you, brave explorers," Jake said with a mock bow, nudging Tom forward. The air inside was cool, almost cold, and as they stepped over the threshold, a shiver ran down Emily's spine. The entrance led into a small room littered with debris, a rusted anchor, old ropes, and various maritime tools. As their eyes adjusted to the dim light, they noticed a spiral staircase winding upward, its steps worn from years of neglect. "Let's see what's up there," Tom urged, taking the lead as they ascended the staircase, each creak echoing ominously in the stillness. At the top, they entered the lantern room, which offered a panoramic view of the ocean and the beach below. But the beauty of the scene was overshadowed by an unsettling feeling that enveloped them. The glass panes, fogged with grime, framed the horizon like a shroud. "Wow, this place is incredible," Jake said, peering out at the setting sun, the sky a brilliant canvas of oranges and purples. But Emily couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. "Guys, do you feel that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What?" Sarah replied, frowning. "It's just the wind." "No, it's something else," Emily insisted, glancing around the room. The shadows seemed to flicker and dance, as if alive. As if in response to her words, a sudden gust of wind slammed the door shut, rattling the old structure. The sound echoed like a thunderclap in the stillness. They all jumped, their eyes wide with shock. "Okay, that's creepy," Jake said, chuckling nervously. "Let's get out of here." But before they could move, a low, mournful wail echoed through the room, chilling them to the bone. It was a sound unlike anything they had heard before, a deep, resonant cry filled with sorrow and rage. "What was that?" Tom stammered, backing away from the door. "I think we should leave," Emily said, her heart racing. As they turned to head back down the stairs, the atmosphere shifted. The air thickened, a heavy presence enveloping them. Shadows coalesced in the corners of the room, twisting and swirling as if trying to form something. "Guys, this isn't funny," Sarah said, her voice trembling. In that moment, a figure materialized from the shadows, a ghostly apparition draped in tattered clothing, its face obscured by a veil of darkness. The spirit's eyes glowed with a haunting light, locking onto the group with an intensity that sent waves of terror coursing through them. "You should not have come here," the voice resonated, echoing around them like a distant thunderstorm. "You have awakened me." "What do you want?" Jake shouted, panic rising in his voice. "Revenge," the spirit hissed, its form shifting like smoke. "For too long I have waited, trapped within these walls, my wrath bound to this lighthouse. I lured ships to their doom, and now you shall pay for disturbing my slumber." Without warning, the windows shattered, and a frigid wind swept through the room, knocking them to the ground. The once peaceful lighthouse had transformed into a prison of terror. "Run!" Tom yelled, scrambling to his feet as the spirit lunged toward them, its cold, bony fingers reaching out. They dashed down the staircase, fear propelling them forward. The walls seemed to close in, the air growing heavier with each step. Emily glanced back, seeing the spirit following, its face twisting into a grotesque mask of rage. Bursting through the door, they stumbled out into the night, the moonlight illuminating the beach. But as they turned to flee, the ground beneath them trembled, and a low rumble echoed from the lighthouse. "We can't let it follow us," Sarah cried, her eyes wide with fear. "Over here," Tom shouted, pointing toward the rocky outcropping a short distance away. They sprinted toward it, desperate to escape the entity that pursued them. As they reached the rocks, they huddled together, breathless and trembling. "What do we do?" Emily panted, her heart racing. "Maybe we can find something to stop it," Jake suggested, glancing back toward the lighthouse, where the ghostly figure hovered in the doorway, seething with fury. "Like what?" "We don't have anything," Sarah replied, panic creeping into her voice. In the darkness, they noticed a small, rusted fishing net tangled among the rocks. "We can try to trap it," Tom exclaimed, grabbing it. With the net in hand, they formulated a plan. They would have to lure the spirit away from the lighthouse and then trap it. They yelled, trying to taunt it, hoping to draw it toward them. "Hey, you can't catch us!" Emily shouted, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The spirit's gaze shifted, its eyes narrowing as it floated closer, drawn by their defiance. As it approached, they positioned themselves behind the rocks, the net poised to ensnare the entity. When it was close enough, Tom hurled the net forward, hoping to ensnare the spirit. For a moment, the net passed through it as if it were smoke, but then the spirit screamed, a sound that reverberated through the night. It writhed and twisted, the energy of its fury causing the very ground to shake beneath them. With one final surge of strength, the spirit lunged, and the net caught it. For an instant, they felt the weight of the ghostly presence as it thrashed against the net, its wails echoing in their ears. "Hold on," Jake shouted, his face a mask of determination. With all their might, they pulled the net tighter, the ghost's form becoming more defined, trapped in the confines of the tangled mesh. As the spirit struggled, the lighthouse began to shake violently, stones falling from its crumbling walls. "Let's finish this," Tom yelled, the resolve in his voice stronger than fear. Together, they pulled the net back toward the lighthouse, forcing the spirit against the crumbling wall. With a final, blood-curdling scream, the entity dissolved into a swirl of mist, its vengeful cries fading into the night. As the last echoes of the spirit faded, the lighthouse crumbled, the ancient structure finally giving in to the years of neglect. Dust and debris filled the air as they stumbled back, breathless but victorious. They stood in silence, watching as the remnants of the lighthouse fell into the sea, a sigh of relief washing over them. "Did we really just do that?" Sarah asked, disbelief etched on her face. "Yeah," Tom replied, shaking his head. "But we need to leave, now." As they made their way back along the beach, the weight of what had happened hung heavily in the air. They had unleashed something ancient and terrifying, but in doing so, they had also freed it. The sun began to rise, casting light on the horizon, a reminder of both the darkness they had faced and the dawn that followed. Though they had survived, they knew the echoes of that night would haunt them forever. Whispers of the lighthouse lingering in their minds, a chilling reminder of the dangers that lay hidden in the shadows of forgotten places.